Tous les jours, du lundi au vendredi, suivez sur nos plateformes en ligne ZoomHaitiNews nos différentes éditions de nouvelles en provenance d'Haïti et partout ailleurs. Pas besoin d'attendre des heures pour être informé. Zoom Haïti est là et vous présente l'information en temps réel. À votre disposition, des professionnels. Rejoignez-nous sur Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Informez-vous sur notre site internet www.zoomhaitinews.com. Les infos sont disponibles en 104 langues. Partout où il y a des Haïtiens, nous sommes là. Zoom Haiti News. L'humain avant tout. Tremblement de terre avec l'autre catastrophe naturelle passé de tous côtés. Il y a des pays même, quelques secondes après tremblement de terre, la vie reprend. L'école, travail, restaurant, tout bagaille. Mais la caille nous, depuis le passé, le poté aller tout ça le joindre. Nous perdit tout ça nous te gagné. Est-ce que c'est maudit nous maudit tout bon vrai? Non, nous pas maudit. Mais plutôt, c'est nous-mêmes qui responsables des gars. Nous capables de limiter des gars. Si nous suspendons, construire n'importe côté. Si nous apprenons à protéger l'environnement nous. Pays, c'est pays nous. C'est nous-mêmes qui devons protéger. Message ça, c'est Zoom Haiti News qui porte le pour.
Nous voulons, au pays nous, changer, activité.
Cheveux wap cassé, ou gen chit, ou gen problème santé, ou besoin conseil sur nutrition ak sport, émission bien-être et beauté, c'est un espace côté nous discuter des impacts la santé, la propreté ak environnement gagné sous bien-être monde. Émission bien-être et beauté, c'est une émission tout neuf. Relais Centraka dans 43 06 42 85 pour information. Émission bien-être et beauté pour être belle et en santé. Depuis cheveux abrachés, yo cassé, peut-être ou calé, puis cheveux sensibles, ou gen cap, ou gen psoriasis, ou gen séborrhée, suspend gaspiller l'argent passer par là, passer sans perdre temps dans Centraka, vin faire examen pour cheveux. Centraka, c'est un centre qui fait diagnostic et traitement pour cheveux. Centraka gen appareil dernier cri, l'a dirigé par un tricologiste certifié par Institut américain de tricologie. Centraka l'ouvre dimanche pour arriver vendredi de 8h am à 5h pm dans Delma 31 rue Jacques 1er. Songez, chaque fois gen problème cheveux, Centraka c'est solution. 53 55 39 43 06 42 85. Centraka pour une chevelure à fière allure.
Tous les jours, du lundi au vendredi, suivez sur nos plateformes en ligne ZoomHaitiNews nos différentes éditions de nouvelles en provenance d'Haïti et partout ailleurs. Pas besoin d'attendre des heures pour être informé. Zoom Haiti est là et vous présente l'information en temps réel. À votre disposition, des professionnels. Rejoignez-nous sur Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Informez-vous sur notre site internet www.zoomhaitinews.com. Les infos sont disponibles en 104 langues. Partout où il y a des Haïtiens, nous sommes là. Zoom Haiti News. L'humain avant tout.
Bonjour tout le monde, nous comptons avec vous aujourd'hui pour nous capables de faire et de parler ça avec vous et nous habituer à faire ça et tout le temps pour essayer de voir qui gens nous capables de résoudre quelques problèmes que nous gagnons en tant que monde, en tant que peuple. Donc nous, aujourd'hui, et gagnons privilège, gagnons et occasion pour nous gagner un très grand et invité avec nous et nous t'ai annoncé déjà parce qu'en plus nous et déjà connaît de qui est parlé nous gagnons avec nous et privilège pour nous gagner ambassadeur Daniel Foote Dan Foote Jean et Mouniorelli donc ici aux États-Unis lié avec nous et jeudi nous connaissons Dan Foote c'est un grand supporter et Haïti donc nous capables de dire comme ça c'est un rare et défenseur nous gagnons ici aux États-Unis. Bonjour, ambassadeur Foote, comment vous êtes?
Pas plus mal, merci Emmanuel. Et vous, comment ça va?
Moi, très bien.
Très bien. C'est un gros plaisir parler avec mes amis haïtiens. Merci beaucoup.
merci en pile et nous comptons gagner ou avec nous. We are very glad to have you among us, and we know we can count on you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to be here. It really is an honor to be able to talk to the Haitian people.
Okay, we're going to switch in English. I know you speak some good Haitian Creole, and it's very good. And but for the clarity of the interview, so we're going to do it in English. And whenever you feel free to say some word in Haitian Creole, that's fine with us. But we will mostly stay in English. So let me ask you, Ambassador Foote, you have a very, very lengthy career as a diplomat. Is that what you have always dreamed for yourself?
No, it's not. I wanted to be a professional athlete as a young man, and then I wanted to be a rock star, and I failed at that. And I fell into diplomacy after being in the Peace Corps, and I finally found what I was good at, I think. It took me a long time. I was 35 years old, and my wife thought I'd never figure it out, but it has been an amazing career, a great adventure, and I've met so many wonderful people around the world, including my friends in IT.
Ou gagné une carrière qui est très longue, tant que j'en ai dit déjà, et qui sont capables de dire qui mission qui est plus challenge pour, qui est plus difficile?
That's a good question. I've faced challenges in many countries, including Iraq and Afghanistan and Colombia and Haiti. The biggest challenge I faced in my career was in my last role, because Haiti's current situation and crises are worse than I've faced in almost any other place. So that was the biggest challenge I faced. I continue to face it with the Haitians, because I continue to be optimistic that there's a way forward to make Haiti better.
Pour qui ça les plus difficile pour vous? Est-ce que c'est par rapport au fait que nous gagnons volume problème qui gagne un problème compliqué dans le pays d'Haïti?
So it was most challenging for me, first of all, because Haiti, as everybody who's hearing me now understands better than I do, is facing its worst situation in generations, probably. And I've spent a lot of time talking to my Haitian sisters and brothers in the diaspora, and I think Haitians know what they need and know what they want. But it's difficult because the international community is still trying to figure out the situation, I think. And I did not want to leave my career as a diplomat, but I came to the point where I think that was the only way I could get the U.S. government. I think that Haiti still has a lot of the attention of the U.S. government, but we need to continue to show that the Haitian people are moving forward and that there's a solution. And I think there is a solution that people may see here in the near term.
Pour qui ça, ou gagner possibilité pour te servir dans gros niveau, dans position sous toutes les administrations, que ce soit démocrate ou bien républicain, ou servir sous George Bush, ou servir sous là sous Joe Biden, sous plusieurs autres administrations encore. Qu'est-ce que fait aussi unique que toutes les administrations yo content de travailler ensemble avec vous dans des positions qui sont vraiment stratégiques?
I think one of the reasons is that I am neither Republican or Democrat. So I'm a political independent and not a political animal. It's hard to be political and a diplomat. And the other reason is I focus my career on action, on accomplishing things, on meeting goals. I'm different than a lot of diplomats, probably because of my athletic background. I still think like an American football player, so I'm kind of assertive. You might even say aggressive in pursuing the right actions. And in doing so, you are able, with a little luck, to get things done over the course of your career. So I've been very lucky, but I think hopefully that has something to do with it.
On-tu parle-nous de lettres d'émission sont envoyées dans la date 22 septembre 2021 quand on décide de bail et démission comme envoyé spécial et parmi les raisons bail c'était haïtiens qui ont même été un mauvais traitement bas fond Del Rio et ou pas content du tout par rapport avec ça. Expliquez-nous ça.
Three issues, I guess. First of all, there was no action by the US government. And despite my pleas and my protestations and pushing and pulling, we hadn't taken any action. I didn't see any action coming up. That was one. And the Haitian situation, as you know, in Haiti, it's urgent. Every day it gets worse. People are dying. The people listening to this know it. So when I then saw the 15,000 Haitian migrants under the bridge in Del Rio, I pretty quickly inferred that they would all be deported back to Haiti. And I just did not think, first of all, I don't think that's humane. Second of all, you saw that Canada and the United States asked their citizens to leave Haiti yesterday at the same time as we're still deporting people. That's a bit hypocritical. And then the final piece was the United States, a few days before I left, had supported the Ariel Henry Accord blindly and implied that needed to be a part of any solution, which I think took a lot of hope away from a lot of the Haitian people. And if you remember, I think on September 24th, Ariel Henry had scheduled an event to swear in the interim government. And I knew the only way I was going to stop 15,000 people from being deported and Ariel Henry swearing in a transition government was by resigning.
Yo expliqué que c'est pas démission, c'est pas parce que ou t'es vraiment pas content avec le traitement immigrant ou après recevoir, mais plutôt parce que y a quelques demandes qu'on t'a fait, yo pas capable de répondre nous, qui sont qu'à dire nous sur ça, ambassadeur Foote.
If the United States wants to help Haiti improve, it needs to take a holistic viewpoint of Haiti, and we weren't doing that. The White House said that I had every opportunity to weigh in on the immigration situation, and they're telling the truth, but I had the same opportunity as any American citizen. Nobody asked me about the deportations. And had they done it, I would have told them that it was counterproductive because Port-au-Prince does not need more desperate people right now. And it just complicates the situation further. So it was in large part because of the immigrants. That was largely the straw that broke the camel's back. But it was largely the real reason behind it is the fact that the United States cannot stop itself from backing a politician or a political party in Haiti. And we continue to do it as we speak with Ariel Henry.
Were you aware of the deportation or you just learned while they were doing the deportation? If yes, what was your stand on that?
I was not aware of the deportations. I saw it on the nightly news here while sitting with my wife. And had they asked me, I would have had a position. That position would have been, I understand that we want to send a message to intending immigrants, illegal immigrants, but by sending people back to Haiti, and you folks in Haiti saw the images under the bridge. They were bad, but the people that we send back to Haiti face much worse circumstances than under that bridge. Under that bridge, people had shelter. They were all in tents. I'm not saying it was good, but it's better than the people that we drop at the airport in Port-au-Prince to go find a place to stay in Cité Soleil or Carrefour or Croix des Bouquets or wherever these very dangerous neighborhoods are.
Comment est la situation en Haïti?
Très mal. It's terrible. When I went, so as you guys know, I lived in Haiti. I was first in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake, and I lived there. And it was bad, as you guys remember. And over the last several years, I've heard people talk about the deterioration of Haiti. And I didn't understand it until I went in July and saw it. And it's horrendous. It is far worse than I imagined it could be back when I lived there in the past. And I now can see that it can get much worse than it is if we don't do something together, the international community and the Haitians, to put the country back on a path towards improvement.
Est-ce que vous avez l'impression que l'administration Biden, la communauté internationale, il a pas avancé dans la bonne direction pour Haïti, puisque nous avons un nouveau chargé d'affaires en Haïti, qui est maintenant M. Coconel. Et est-ce que vous avez l'impression qu'il y a plus ou moins tendé parce que son gros action quand même ont été fait?
So to answer your question, I think that the Biden administration in some ways is moving in the right direction. I know Assistant Secretary Todd Robinson from INL was there this week visiting and talking about the security plan, which I think came somewhat out of my recommendations. And the Chargé d'Affaires, Ken Merton, I think that may be the most positive move the United States has made in a long time. Ken Merton, for the Haitian people, I think he gets a bad rap, a little bit of a bad reputation. When we were there, because I worked with Ken, he was my Ambassador Merton I was his deputy, and he had no influence on policy when he was the ambassador. That was all decided in Washington. Ambassador Merton taught me everything I know about Haiti that I haven't learned from Haitians. And he also kind of taught me the perspective that the only way it will work is through Haitian determined future and Haiti solution. So I want people to understand that Ken, while he is seen as having backed Tête Calais and the Martelly administration, obviously we work with whomever is in government, but that was not Ken who made the call or the decision to support Page Teka or Tête Calais or anybody. So I think that's a positive step.
Nous songeons il y a un débat sur est-ce que Michel Martelly, lycée américain ou bien lycée l'autre nationalité. Kenneth Metten, lycée était ambassadeur qui était responsable, car il expliqué Michel Martelly pas américain et pour ambassadeur c'est pas vraiment commun pour faire ça. Alors on pas invité pour entrer dans les détails ça mais c'était quand même mon rappel s'il vous plaît. Réaction ou comme un diplomate les différents d'un pilote diplomate et c'est qui ça vous pensez qui ça vous comprendre qui fait situation tellement difficile qu'on obligé prendre et obligé gagner une réaction ça.
I think part of it is my experience in the Peace Corps. So I lived in Bolivia, in the middle of nowhere, no electricity, no water, in the Peace Corps. And I learned that the only way I could do my job well was by living, talking, being with the people. And that's the only way I could learn about the community, the country, the state. And when I went to Haiti for the first time, it's similar to Bolivia. I mean, they're different, but they're similar in governance challenges and poverty and economic situations. And I realized the only way I was ever going to understand Haiti was through Haitians. I think Americans historically have been, I don't know, we oversell our understanding of foreign cultures. And I don't think very many Americans understand Haiti because we haven't spent enough time talking to the Haitian people and having the Haitian people explain to us what's going on in Haiti. Traditionally, Americans spend a lot of time telling Haitians what's going on in Haiti and what they should do about it, and that has never worked. So obviously, the United States bears significant responsibility for the situation in Haiti, and I think it's important to admit that, and I think it's important to move forward as partners as opposed to big brother and little brother who doesn't get to make Haiti's decisions for themselves.
Depuis là où démissionné dans poste envoyé spécial là, est-ce que vous parlez avec le département d'État sur Haïti? Est-ce que vous consultez pour demander son conseil sur question Haïti?
Unfortunately, I have not spoken with the State Department other than Secretary Blinken did call me a couple of weeks ago. And we had a good conversation, and he was thoughtful, and he asked incisive questions about Haiti. And I think he understands to a certain extent. Before we talked, I'm not sure he did because I never had any access to him. Other than that, very few. I've spoken to my good friends in the State Department who continue to work on Haiti, but on a limited basis. And certainly the State Department has not come to me and asked, what should we do? Which I think is foolish because I spent several months trying to help them figure that out. And the only way to do that is for somebody to be in Haiti on the streets, talking to the people, talking to everybody who's involved in this situation.
Seulement mois passé pour te justifier pour te voyer mon déportation yo, administration Biden à travers secrétaire d'État et sécurité intérieure et Alejandro Mayorkas, il dit Haïti pas gagné problème sécurité, c'est ça il dit l'État haïtien. Ariel Henry t'a expliqué, il dit Haïti safe. Mais qu'on a, il a demandé tout citoyen américain, s'il vous plaît, entrer dans le pays le plus rapidement possible. Qui j'en comprendre ça, ambassadeur?
I think my opinion is probably similar to that of many of the folks in IT. It's ridiculous. How can we say that it's safe enough to, and it's pretty bad when people living under a bridge next to the Rio Grande River are better off than they would be in Port-au-Prince. But that is the truth, I think. We cannot say, oh, it's just fine for these deportees, let's send them back. At the same time, when we will not let our American personnel at the embassy leave their compounds. And now we're advising all Americans to urgently depart Haiti. So they don't add up. It can't be one rule for one kind of people and another rule for another kind of people. It's either safe for human beings in Port-au-Prince and Haiti, or it's not. And if it's not, we should not be deported.
So pour qui ça, il y a une politique de 2 poids 2 mesures. Ils mettent environ 100 000 visas pour Afghans. Ils mettent avion pour aller chercher Afghans et venir aux États-Unis avec eux. Mais pour Haïtiens, ils mettent avion pour prendre aux États-Unis pour déporter en Haïti. Pour qui ça doit gagner une différence dans la politique?
So it's not an easy position for the Biden administration. I acknowledge that. And I agree that the United States needs to be able to implement and enforce its immigration laws. That being said, there are times in different countries where the situation does not allow the humane return of deportees. And I worked in Afghanistan, and I equally stick up for the people of Afghanistan. And it's way too dangerous to deport people back to Afghanistan today, obviously. Well, it's the same is true in Haiti. And I'm not saying we should stop deporting people around the whole world, but when we have TPS in a country, temporary protective status, you guys know what that is well, and we're asking our citizens not to go there and the embassy is on lockdown, they should show that that's evidence that we can't deport people. At some point, we should begin deporting Haitian people again, but that's at the point when security is adequate, when there's a state in place that can care for the people, where there's a way to assist them to reintegrate into society. Right now, society is breaking down so much that there's nothing for them to integrate into.
Tout le monde pense et dans l'annonce américain, c'est pour qu'elle font intervention militaire dans le pays d'Haïti. Ils pensent qu'à gagner de représailles qui peuvent le faire. Qui sont pensés de ça, ambassadeur Foote?
As you know, la peuple haïtien is very adept at seeing what's going on and predicting things. I have heard nothing about an American military intervention, and I think that it's just to protect American citizens from the situation in Haiti, to get them out. The United States, as you saw, is not keen on sending troops overseas without a clear plan, an exit strategy, et cetera, at this point in time. However, the security plan that I had 4 months ago there's a weakness in there, and that's the time it takes to get the panache to be able to do their jobs. Since those 4 months have gone by, Haiti has gotten so much worse that my plan won't work anymore. It will work in the long term, but Haiti needs something immediate. I'm not saying that that's an international intervention of troops, but we're talking about options with some of the people in the dialogue in Haiti, because I think Haiti it may have to take steps in the short term to protect its own security in order to give the United States and the international community time to get their act together.
Is that something you would support, like sending, maybe not like a lot of troops, like 500 something, sending some troops in Haiti to help solve the problem? Or is that something, or do you see that? Is that comment somebody would have supporté, ou bien qui ont ouais ça même?
So sending in a big number of American troops could certainly fix the security situation temporarily. It's not durable, it's not sustainable, and it's expensive and it's risky. I think the only way the international community will support, meaning bring money and resources, which they have to do urgently, is if whoever does it through the panache. And I think in the short term, they need to bring down some trainers, probably contractors at this point in time, who would maybe be former military or police people. And within 2 or 3 months, the panache could be in a place where they can go out and start taking on the gangs again. Mm-hmm. The issue is, Haiti cannot, I don't think it can stand by and wait for the United States plan right now, because people are dying. There's no fuel. There's no electricity in the hospitals, in the homes. It's too urgent and too dire. And my plan, the plan that the State Department is implementing, will take 8 to 12 months before the police are better, and that's too long.
Après, Jovenel Moïse fin perdu la veli, donc dans mauvaises conditions, nous regrettons. Te gagné un effort, plusieurs groupes dans la société civile Haïti qui t'a fait pour être capable de mettre une solution à l'haïtienne, à la crise pays à la traversée. Mais l'administration Biden, au lieu de supporter l'effort, ça, ils ont décidé pour imposer et peuple haïtien, Ariel Henry, nous, ouais, qui gens, et ambassade américaine était sorti communiqué et l'ONU à travers et Hélène là, il était sorti communiqué pour supporter Ariel Henry et même imposer lui pour qu'ils soient passés à l'administration Biden, ils sont pas capables de faire ça qui doit être dans le pays d'Haïti. Au moins, si ils sont pas qu'à aider, pour qu'ils soient pas qu'à quitter Haïtiens, jouer une solution, résoudre le problème,
It's hard for me to explain, but I'll try. In American diplomacy, it seems that we're always terrified of government transitions, non-democratic government transitions, right? And anything that happens in Haiti right now is going to be semi-non-democratic because the people can't vote for the transition government. Although with a consensus agreement, I think it will be democratic. But I just think we're afraid as the Americans state of the possibility of instability when there's a change in governments like that. I will say, I do think the Biden administration will do the right thing. It's taken them way longer than we would have liked to see, and they haven't done it yet. But Ariel Henry, unfortunately, and I have nothing against Dr. Henry, but it's just the Haitian perspective of him. I do not think that there's room in the Haitian mindset for him in a transition government. And obviously, there's been no movement forward on a unity agreement over the past 6 weeks. And it just looks like everybody I talk to says, look, we can get an agreement, but it's going to be without Ariel Henry. And I think you will see one probably fairly soon because they understand now that the Americans are not going to swoop in and fix it. But if they give, I've said that Ariel Henry needs to convince the Haitian people that he should be part of an interim government and a solution. The people don't need to convince Ariel Henry that he should be part. So civil society needs to be part of a solution. Ariel Henry doesn't need to be part of a solution. He hasn't convinced the people by now. Maybe he's not going to be. But I think that the Haitian people can have hope because if they support and use your voices on this process to reach a broader agreement with the Commission for a Haitian Solution to the Crisis, which started before the assassination, right? They started working in March, so it was serious back then. If your listeners and viewers support that, make their voices heard, I think you will see an agreement that the United States and the international community can back and support with resources and start to plan for a real rejuvenation of Haiti over the next few years with such an agreement. And I think without an agreement, it'll be almost impossible to move forward. And the United States is starting, I think, to understand that the Haitian people may not be able to include Ariel Henry in such an agreement.
Vous pensez américain finalement, en fait, l'administration américaine finalement est capable à supporter accord et Montana qui gagne en pile organisation dans la société civile là-dedans. Vous pensez est capable de faire un mouvement comme ça?
I don't want the U.S. to support the Montana Accord. I don't want the U.S. to support the Ariel Accord. I want the U.S. to support the broadest consensus that Haitians can come up with, and they're close. I think if the commission, and more importantly, the opposition politicians and political parties, if they understand that they do not have to include the de facto government in the solution, I think many of these political parties are this close from aligning with Montana, and then the United States government will be able to back a broader consensus agreement. It might not include the current government. It might not include some of the other politicians or parties, but I think it will be broad enough that the people will find it acceptable.
Est-ce que vous pensez si Américains n'ont pas de supporter Ariel Henry, je dis l'État Premier ministre toujours?
I think that it's unfortunate that the international community did not start supporting real consensus 4 months ago. And so we've lost 4 months and the gangs have gotten stronger and the situation has gotten more dire and now there's no fuel. So I think action needs to start now. I can't say what would have happened if the US supported a consensus agreement. And I think they have, but they've just insisted that the current government be part of it. And I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, Haitian politics is complex, as you guys know. So I could be wrong. Maybe there isn't an agreement, but I'm optimistic there is. And I think the Haitian people have reason for hope. And I think again, you're close to it. I think when the Haitian people take an agreement and an interim government, transition government to the international community that's agreed upon, that the international community will be happy to support that.
Pour qui ça, les États-Unis toujours d'accord ou veulent supporter de moun, soit dans l'élection ou du moins dans le contexte Ariel Henry qui toujours pas qu'à aborder, qui pas qu'à répondre avec exigence nous dans le pays d'Haïti.
The United States and the international community forever has intervened in Haiti, almost always to bad effects, right? And I think it's just because we don't understand it. I do not believe there have been in the past, there may have been some bad reasons or protecting American businesses. I'm talking way in the past, but over the past 25 years, I don't think the US has made decisions about Haiti for bad reasons. I think they did it thinking that we can fix Haiti, we can help Haiti, but they did it naively, and every time it gets worse. At this point, I think it's clear that international choice of the ruling party in Haiti does not work. And so let's go back to the question of Ken Merton. The US administration at the time supported processes, and Michel Martelly wound up being the president of Haiti, right? And the US played a role in that. I can't tell you how deeply, but I know it played a role. And then once Sweet Mickey was president, the US backed him, which we worked with him, we helped him, we backed him. And while I was there until 2012, President Martelly largely worked with us. And then things started to go south, and he fired some of his security people, and you saw things eroding, right? And we continued to support him, and he didn't hold elections, and we continued to support him, and then we supported Moïse. So the United States, and these are the people, the Haitian leaders who are accountable for the situation today. I mean, they were in charge, and the situation has gotten this bad under their watch. So do they deserve a role in the future of Haiti? If they broke Haiti, are they going to fix Haiti? I don't think so. I think it's important for the Haitian people to decide whether they want past leaders from Haiti who created this corrupt impunity and armed gang-led state. Do the people want PHTK to be part of that improvement? I don't think they do.
Dans l'élection Michel Martelly, les pas passé dans le premier tour élection et c'était Hillary qui était descendu aller qui dit pour mettre l'imposer conseil électoral la mettre et c'est pas moi même qui dit ça, c'est un membre conseil électoral qui dit président conseil a dit c'était américain qui imposait Michel Martelly avec pour la deuxième tour. Vous pensez ça c'est naïveté ou bien c'est intérêt et mon yo a protégé, donc ça pas gagné trop naïveté là-dedans et ambassade de Foote?
Oui, absolument totalement naïf. Absolument naïf.
So
On the part of the US, yes. I mean, just look at the results, okay? The results have been in the wake of a devastating earthquake. There was some immediate improvement and a lot of inflow of money. But then things have deteriorated so much since, I don't know when it started. The people in Haiti know better than me, 2012, 2014, 2015. And it's so bad now that I just don't see involving the same actors in a solution to be wise. And then the other thing with the United States regarding Ariel Henry and the core group's anointment of him as prime minister, he still has some questions to answer on the assassination. And that's what really boggles my mind, is that the United States can back somebody who is implicated and who had talked to Joseph Badiou before and after the assassination many times. Tell us what happened. That's all the people are asking. If you're innocent, just tell us. What were you talking about? You can't say, oh, everybody called me and was worried about my security. I forgot. You didn't forget. He needs to answer the questions. And once he does, then maybe the US can think about it. But he and his administration were there. They talked to these people and they need to have questions answered. I'm also concerned that the investigation seems to be stalled, and that it partially depends on the political will of the government, I think. So that bothers.
Si te genyen on city council, c'est-à-dire un monde qui conseiller municipal ici, yo cité non assassination président ou bien n'importe citoyen américain, moun sa t'a obligé by démission rapide vite, mais nous ouais dans pays pas nous, ça pas dit américain au problème. C'est comme si une démocratie à double standard, une démocratie pour haïtiens, une démocratie pour américains. There's two different democracies, one for the US, one for Haitian. Why is that? Pourquoi ça?
I think we in the US sometimes have difficulty seeing the differences just because we're too close. So look, democracy is messy. You see that in the United States. You've seen our democracy. This year, on January 6th, almost come apart completely. So the United States, we still have challenges, and we cannot take the stance that we understand democracy and people need to do it our way, because every country needs to do it their way. I don't think the US wants to be hypocritical on Haiti. I just think that there are so many competing demands, and stability has always been the top priority of the United States. And I understand that, but we've never gone after what I think is one of the biggest causes of instability in Haiti, and that's the political disenfranchisement of the people. The people never get to pick their leaders because they're either picked through dirty elections or through international meddling. And the Haitian people, I think, if they feel that they've played an adequate role in choosing their government and their constitution and their way forward, will accept that government, and that government will be much more successful. And look, this transition government is not going to have free reign to come in and steal money and do crazy stuff like this. This is time to clean Haiti up, and I'm working to get an agreement, and it's going to include a lot of people in Haiti, and it needs to, some of whom have reputations. Well, we can't exclude everybody in Haiti, but we can, with the new government, say, look, no gang ties, no narco ties, and if we find out about it, the United States and the international community is going to sanction you, and it's not going to work. So we need to have some carrots and sticks, and we need to make sure that that the transitional government and then the follow-on elected governments are held accountable, because they never have been in Haiti by the international.
Ou est-ce que vous travaillez avec un groupe des États-Unis ou bien Haïti qui va vous garantir que la situation est capable de changer finalement, les États-Unis sont capables de prendre une bonne décision?
So since I resigned on September 22nd, I've continued to do the same thing I was doing for the US government, except now I'm just doing it for Haiti, right? I still think it's in the US full interest to help Haiti right now. And I think Haitian and American interests are the same. So I'm talking to everybody. I'm talking everybody but the current government, because that's the job of the embassy, is to deal with the de facto government. But I'm talking to most of the other political parties, the commission, many of the other civil society and other societal people, business people. So I'm talking to a lot of people, and I think there is reason, even though it doesn't look like it right now in Haiti, there's reason for hope, because I do think these groups are close to an agreement. You need an agreement to move forward. That's not the final solution. With an agreement, they can set up an interim government, a transitional government, and a roadmap and the processes to reestablish security, get the fuel moving again, and make it so people can live and create the conditions for elections so that Haitians can have the dignity of choosing their own leaders.
Moi, ta yon connaît, pour qui ça, les États-Unis continuent à porter Ariel Henry alors que nous citons l'implication la mort président, pour qui ça continue à imposer nous, et ensuite pour qui ça imposer nous une gouvernance avec une seule tête, alors que c'est souvent bicéphale que nous.
Why does the U.S. Continue to impose Henry at this point, right? That's what she asked.
Yes.
I think it's very. I think it's human nature. It's difficult for us to admit when we make a mistake, right? Even in like big national world power diplomacy. And having served in Afghanistan, this is just an observation. At any time, we could have made our evacuation from Afghanistan a little easier by just saying, hang on, stop for a minute, time out. We made a mistake. Let's correct it and move forward. With Ariel Henry, the core group in the United States, I think it was on July 17th, said that they would work with Ariel Henry, despite the fact that they had supported Claude Joseph before. So now Henry is the US's guy, right? We put him there, and so for us to say, oh, we need him to leave, is admitting that we were wrong. We made a mistake. I think we'll do it. I think the US will admit we made that mistake when the Haitians finally convince my government that they want an agreement, but it won't include every single part. And when they come with that solution, because the internationals are terrified, and rightfully so. Nobody has a solution. Nobody has a plan from the internationals, but the Haitians have a plan. I'm here to help them get to a final agreement, although I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just telling them, play nice, and this is the future of your country. And I think they will get there. And I think we will be able to start tackling security and fuel and many of the other terrible crises that are
At your meeting with Congress a couple of weeks ago, Ambassador Foote, you said, Ariel Henry said he was ready to step down if the Haitian people ask him. It's a common thing, like people say, oh, if the Haitian ask, I will. But was it a firm commitment, or is it like something he should just to show that he's ready to step down? What was the conversation?
He has, I have heard him personally say, look, if they come to me and have an agreement and ask me to step down, I will. So he said that to me. He said that to, I think, every visiting US delegation down there. He said that to the guys in Penn and the other opposition political parties. So he said it. He's on record as having said it many times. And I think he's sincere, or I think he was sincere when he said it. You know, it's exceptionally hard for anybody in Haiti to step down from power. But I think Dr. Henry in his heart understands that Haiti needs concessions and compromise right now, and that he'll do what's best for the country.
Nous, ouais, États-Unis, à travers le groupe, à travers l'ONU, ils ont supporté le groupe et bandit, ils ont supporté, au contraire, ils ont communiqué qui dit le fait qu'ils ont fédéré, c'est très bien. Ils sont capables de parler ensemble avec eux. Je dis, un groupe bandit, c'est eux-mêmes qui kidnappé 30, 40, 50 personnes chaque jour. Nous, pour Haïtiens, donc, c'est un petit problème, ça. Et les États-Unis, communauté internationale de manière générale, ils ont gagné une responsabilité dans la situation de sécurité, je dis là. Pour qui ça est situation ça? Monsieur nous répond à une question ça déjà sous plusieurs formes, mais on a cherché à comprendre pour qui ça est toujours campé dans le mauvais côté, peuple haïtien.
So why does the UN and the international community always take the wrong side? A large part of that is a lack of understanding, despite the fact that we supposedly live in Port-au-Prince and we move around Haiti. In recent years, they haven't been able to do that very much. I think it's largely Haitian politics and just the naivete of the international community. So the international community wants to support improvements in Haiti. They just haven't figured out how to do so. And what happens is they get somebody that they support and they think they're going to be good, but then that entity or party or individual uses them to consolidate their own power, right? As you've seen in the past. So it's Haitian politicians brilliantly sometimes using the internationals to help them consolidate power. I mean, that's what you saw with I mean, that's what Haitians tell me they saw with President Moïse, is he did a bunch of stuff that he never would have gotten away with had the international community not supported him, but they thought he was the solution. So again, acknowledging the responsibility of the international community and the United States is an important step in playing a positive role in the future. And I like to see us do that. I'd like to see the international community do that. I'd like to see it give Haitians a chance to say, here's what we want to do. It might not work. Heck, that's okay. I know that if I go impose an American solution on Haiti, it won't work. But I don't know if the Haitians come up with a solution that it don't work. As a matter of fact, I think it might work. So let's give it a chance.
So nous senti gon problème. Nous pas fabriquer zam en Haïti. Nous zam yo entré sorti États-Unis et gagner contrôle États-Unis mettait sur tout l'autre côté de Dominican Republic, sur Ukraine, sur Afghanistan côté qui j'en vous zam entré. Mais quand c'est pour Haïti, pas gagner contrôle ça. Si m'ta vle acheter un zam gros calibre en AK-47 et AR-15 voyez Haïti, nous ka fait ça. Donc voyez li et puis après l'entrée pour qui ça au moins si on va ta aider nous résoudre problème yo, mais mettez sécurité, quittez nous chercher solution yo pour compte nous comme si nous senti gagner en sorte de complot international et pour diminuer Haïti plus que possible et États-Unis lui fait partie là-dedans. Qui sont au cas nous sur ça et ambassadeur Foote.
Thank you, and I agree with much of what you said, particularly regarding arms and weapons, and it's a difficult situation. The United States has a huge challenge in analyzing the goods that come into the United States, right? The ones, the drugs and the arms and the things that can harm the United States. So imagine how hard it is for us to scan what's leaving the United States. And so that's part of it. I would, look, the Haitian people have every right to be frustrated with the United States, I think. And the United States played a huge role in putting the Haitian people where they are today, which is in a position where they feel a little helpless without the United States and without the international community. And that's because we always go in and help or hurt, but we're there. I'm confident that the United States is going to come in with the international community and help Haiti. They're slow about it, and part of that's probably my fault. I will have failed if we can't get the United States government and the internationals to support what's going on in Haiti. But by the same token, you saw Todd Robinson said something to the effect like, the United States is not going to come down and fix the security situation in Haiti. Haitians need to do it. Well, Haitians can't fix the security situation by themselves. But I think now is the time for Haitians to walk by themselves, as you've said, and to set their own path and tell the United States, here's how we want to move forward. We need your help. And the United States knows that Haiti needs our help, but we don't need you to tell us who should lead us.
So if they call you to say they would like you to serve, you still are an employee at the State Department, right? So
no, I'm not. No, if I was, I couldn't have this conversation. So I am officially retired. You know, I don't know what the next steps are for me. I know that I will continue to be involved in Haiti, at least until we get to a point where things appear to be on the right path. But I'm not looking to come back to the US government at this point in time. And I think they're kind of mad at me too. So I think it would be unlikely that if they asked me to come back.
Edlen? Okay, so we think Ambassador Foote has answered most of the question. So we are certainly grateful to have such a productive conversation with him. But the last question that I had for Ambassador Foote, like we know Haiti hasn't always been this way. Though there are times like recently, 1950, where for a US citizen to go visit Haiti, they needed like $50 for one Haitian good, $50 to buy one Haitian good, to go spend like a week in Haiti, spend some vacation, go to Matissan, which become a very, very bad area, like in terms of security right now, to go to Bel Air. And today, if someone in Haiti has one Haitian good, like fell on the ground, it's like they don't even need, there's nothing you can do in Haiti right now. So there's a common idea, even for myself, and to be honest with you, say there is a conspiracy, like we are paying a price for fighting, for being the first nation on earth, like Black nation, to fight slavery and be successful. And at this time, France, Germany, the United States, they all come together and say, this is a bad example. You will pay the price. And it's a very long time. It's hard to imagine that that's the same things that the same price we are paying right now, but we feel it that way. That's the only reason why they would not do something to help. And by doing something to help, I don't mean send us 100 million, 50 million, something like this. Just just let us solve the problem. If we need assistance, like technical assistance, people to train our national police, people who need like teachers or others, we need those things because no country by itself can, go to take the way of development, say that they cannot do it. Even the US, they need support for other countries. That's not the help we need. It's not about the money, but at least do the right things, like treat democracy, like Martin Luther King said, the threat to democracy, like anywhere, is a threat to democracy everywhere. If you cannot do it here, don't do it in other country. And it's not, I know you have the, good idea about Haiti. You have the all the willingness to help in a personal level, but to be in such situation right now, young women, men, people are kidnapped, the rape, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's like less than an hour from the United States. It's not like something in Ukraine, something in Afghanistan, you need hours to fly. It's less than an hour to go to Cap Haitien from Miami. That's why should we have, and that's, I don't say it in Haitian Creole because I wanted to have this conversation with you. You want you to understand it. So we feel like there's a conspiracy, and as of right now, they are fighting to put us in this situation that we are today.
I agree with what you're saying here. Looking back at the history of Haiti, look, it's the only slave republic that ever won its freedom, right? But it suffered greatly as a result at the hands of the Blancs, largely because of racism. Slavery was still going on for many years after Haiti's independence, and it made countries with white people who had slaves very nervous. And as I've said before, we need the Le Blanc, we need to acknowledge our role there. And it still plays a role, despite the fact that we try to as Americans, we try to be non-racist, and racism is still huge in the world, and Haiti suffers as a result. But I don't think that Haiti is cursed. I don't think that there's a conspiracy. As you said, in the 50s, before Duvalier, Haiti was beautiful. I lived in Port-au-Prince and I lived in Saint-Domingue. And people on both sides of the island still tell me today how 40 years ago, Haiti was much nicer than the Dominican Republic. So guess what? We can return it there. Haitians it can get back there. Look, Haiti suffered the Duvaliers, all the Aristide and Cedras and earthquakes and Pech-Teca. The last 40 years, 50 years plus has been really hard on Haiti. Haiti needs to recover, and it needs help to do so, but it can, and the Haitian people can do so, but you need to be all in, okay? I think the Haitian people are at a point now where it's time for them to have a voice in their lives and their future, and I hope that they do so. And I will play whatever positive role I possibly can.
The people of Pech-Teca, they thought you have a personal problem with them. Yeah, they say, Ambassador Foote is part of political party in Haiti. You always attack us. What is your answer on that?
And that's a great point. That's a great question. I'm not Haitian. I'm not a Haitian citizen. I won't be. I will not vote in Haitian elections, and I won't play a role in choosing your future leaders. And I don't want to. I don't hate Page Teka. As a matter of fact, I am friends with Laurent Lamotte and Michel Martelly, although I haven't seen him in 9-10 years. I was friends with them. So I don't have anything with the party or the people. I'm echoing the Haitian voice. The Haitians tell me that there's no room for Page Teka in a transition government, that the leadership is not there, that they haven't done anything, that they are responsible for the federations and the gang ties and et cetera. Okay, I'm just echoing what the people are saying, and so that they have a voice, so that the US knows that people don't want them there. So I'm not against Page Teka. Personally, I believe that they have had ample opportunity to govern and improve Haiti, and that they failed miserably. And if the Haitian people don't want them, that's their choice. If the Haitian people are crazy enough to want them again, that's the Haitian people's choice.
Mm-hmm. And thank you so much, Ambassador Foote. We certainly appreciate your help. We certainly appreciate the candid conversation we had with you, and we really appreciate your help. I don't know if Edlen has a couple words for you before we let you go.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm really appreciative.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ambassador Foote. We appreciate your help, and merci beaucoup. C'est un plaisir pour nous te parler à vous.
Igualement, merci un pile Kembe Femme.
Merci beaucoup.
Voilà, c'était Ambassadeur Daniel Foote. Avec lui, nous avons plusieurs dossiers, et notamment questions sécurité, questions élection et questions accords qui viennent chercher pour comment capable résoudre problème dans le pays d'Haïti. Et nous, c'est un envoi haïtien ici et aux États-Unis, un envoi un défenseur haïtien, nous sommes capables de dire comme ça, qui y en a rare fois donc un diplomate qui prend disposition pour défendre donc les monde en général nous les diplomates qui bon on posture neutre yo pas parler donc débat ça yo kembe pour compte mais lui-même li lever voile. Et moi-même personnellement je pense si c'est pas à cause des démissions et ambassadeur Daniel Foote non pas envoyé spécial jeudi situation est capable plus difficile l'américain t'a continué faire même qualité des audios. Et nous avons une situation qui est encore plus grave. En dépit du fait qu'elle est grave comme ça, même penser des actions de monde pour l'ambassadeur Daniel Foote, ils ont été en pile, et haïtiens et gagnants, et espoir, et nous espérons c'est un premier, c'est pas une dernière conversation avec l'ambassadeur Foote. Nous avons continué avec lui, donc apprendre des expériences en Haïti. Merci beaucoup, c'était un plaisir d'être avec vous. À la prochaine.
Tous les jours, du lundi au vendredi, suivez sur nos plateformes en ligne ZoomHaitiNews, nos différentes éditions de nouvelles en provenance d'Haïti et partout ailleurs. Pas besoin d'attendre des heures pour être informé. Zoom Haïti est là et vous présente l'information en temps réel. À votre disposition, des professionnels. Rejoignez-nous sur Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Informez-vous sur notre site internet www.zoomhaitinews.com. Les infos sont disponibles en 104 langues. Partout où il y a des Haïtiens, nous sommes là. Zoom Haiti News. L'humain avant tout. Tremblement de terre ak l'autre catastrophe naturelle passe tout côté. Il y a des pays même, quelques secondes après tremblement de terre, la vie reprend. L'école, travail, restaurant, tout bagaille. Mais la caille nous, depuis le passé, le poté aller tout ça joindre. Nous perdit tout ça nous te gagné. Est-ce que c'est maudit nous maudit tout bon vrai? Non, nous pas maudit. Mais plutôt, c'est nous-mêmes qui responsables des gaillots. Nous capables de limiter des gaillots. Si nous suspendons, construire n'importe côté. Si nous apprenons protéger l'environnement nous. Pays, c'est pays nous. C'est nous-mêmes qui doit protéger. Message ça c'est Zoom Haiti News qui pote le pour.
Nous voulons, au pays nous, changer, changer.